on the beaches of Cannes, broadcasting with some good friends here.
Yeah.
I'm Ted Smith, VP of Partnership Sales at Experian. And here, as the title suggests, we want to be discussing, in a world that's ever changing in the marketing landscape, there's chaos, there's always change. I think it's one of the things that excites us about being in the industry. We're ever learning, we're ever moving, everything's dynamic. So I'd like to introduce everybody here on the panel. First, going left to right, why don't we make some quick introductions? Scott, I'll let you go first.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Scott Ensign. I lead strategy for Butler Till. Butler Till is an independent media agency, and some things that are unique about us other than being independent, which is the best kind of agency to be, in case you weren't aware. We are 100% employee owned through an employee stock ownership plan. So every owner is an employee and every employee is an owner, and there's no outside money, which really allows us a lot of freedom and flexibility. Also a certified B Corp and certified women-founded, women-owned, and women-led business. So really unique place to work.
Great, that was fantastic. Vibhor Kapoor, I'm the Chief Business Officer of NextRoll. You may know about NextRoll with the brand AdRoll. We are a digital advertising platform. We are full funnel, multi-channel. I run product and marketing for the company, and in its core, I'm a product and marketing guy that's running product and marketing for a company whose product is marketing.
Incredible. I'm Sarah Zurell. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Sells Brands. We are home to Chinese Laundry, Dirty Laundry, CL by Laundry, and 42 Gold. And I oversee marketing, and we recently wrapped e-com underneath me. So it's a really fun reorganization for us right now, and excited to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Sarah. This is exciting me. I feel really privileged to be on the stage with these different minds that I think have very different perspectives around how to tackle a lot of the change that's happening and the opportunity in it, really. Vibhor, I want to kick off with you first here. So we titled this panel is From Chaos to Clarity. So I want to understand, from your vantage point, how do you navigate, an ecosystem that's always amidst change? How do you think about it personally? And how do you sort of bring that back to building a business?
I think it just is valuable to think about chaos and what that means for a little bit. And I reflect this a little bit on my own. When you have too much data, when you have too many options, when you have divergent views, that's when you get chaos. And it can be for a variety of reasons that you have chaos. You may not have made some strategic choices clearly. You may not have aligned your resources to the strategic choices you may have made. Or there may be factors that are outside of your control, macroeconomic conditions, which we're very familiar how they have been thrown at all of us in marketing over the last several years. So for me, when it comes down to managing that chaos, it's all about focusing on the controllables, sounds as obvious as it is. And even then, when you know what you can control and you try to drive towards it, it can sometimes be hard to make a call. And I mean, my mantra then is, I'm going to get started. And I'm going to get rapid feedback loops, and it's going to help me iterate on it and get to greater clarity from chaos faster. So that's kind of my modus operandi.
I love that. I mean, yeah, you can't be intimidated by the chaos, but you have to understand what you can control within that chaos and move on it in interesting ways. Scott, when you consider how crowded and noisy the ecosystem can be, how do you think about how marketers need to become masters of channels, of curating these different channels together and bringing the best benefit to their end goals?
Yeah, I mean, sitting on the agency side, I think what you just articulated is probably the best argument for not just an agency, but an independent agency. The world is getting more complicated. The world of marketing is getting more complicated. Obviously, we're not in an age anymore where a single channel or a very small number of channels is going to cut it. But I think for people who are passionate about marketing, that should be a very good news situation because all of the tools and raw materials are at a disposal. I think about it, if you were passionate about Legos and you walked into a room that had every Lego piece ever made available to you, how excited you would be. And that's really how we feel about marketing. Yes, there's a lot to do. Yes, it's getting more complex. There are some thorny problems that we have to work on to solve together. But the tools have never been more abundant. Like we always say at Butler Till, like we can do anything. We can't do everything, but we can do anything with what's available to us. And so that's just a really exciting time to be in this business. I mean, if anything, and probably for a variety of reasons, I wish I was born about 15 years later, especially in this moment. But like, things are going to continue to change so fast. And for people who are actually passionate about it, it is kind of like a kid in a candy store, what you're able to do with everything that's available now.
Do you think things are changing faster, and will continue to change faster? Or how do you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the pace of change is accelerating, and I made a little promise to myself that I wouldn't use the word AI this week, but that is a part of it. Like, we are going to see that, and we're seeing that hit. You know, we're a media agency primarily, and so we're really seeing some practical applications of AI that are allowing us to not replace our people, but to supercharge our people. And you know, one of the ways, for instance, is using agentic AI, which is another word that I did not want to use on this panel, but to create really, really dynamic, sophisticated media plans in ways that scale human reasoning. Like, that is going to change the world in the same way that the internet let us stop, you know, passing physical things back and forth. That is going to allow us to really just break the constraints off the ability to reason in a human way in the marketing world. And it is like, we're at the top of that roller coaster hill right now. Things are going to move fast.
I love that. Sarah, as a marketer, I mean, you've come into your role as CMO at Chinese Laundry. You're tackling a lot. You've got a lot of different orgs and a lot of different things that need to become more cohesive. Like, how do you think about that? How do you stay agile in all the right ways that you need to be? How do you maintain some of the controls that you do? Like, how do you bring all the e-commerce and components together when you think about channels and marketing?
I think the number one thing is to remain consumer obsessed and make sure that you are meeting them where they are and that you're improving their life in one way or another, right? Like, us as marketers, we are putting product in front of them that different companies have created. And if you're not showing people, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all just people doing like human people stuff. And if what you're trying to sell doesn't improve their life, like, you're kind of missing the mark. And so that's a principle that I keep through every single strategy that I'm developing, whether that is improving an experience online from our website to making sure that we have pricing cohesion across retail platforms, which is something that I get to tackle now that e-com completely folds under me with all of our partners. But I think that there's like this idea of how we create content and making sure that we're actually reaching the audience that we're trying to. And I heard an interesting stat earlier here at Cannes a couple of days ago. Wiseman put out a study, and it's like 75% of spending is done by women. And it's fun to call that like the procurement department of the household, 75%, right? But out of that 75%, only 49% of women feel like brands are actually talking to them. So it's like, how can we connect on a deeper, more authentic way with these consumers so that we're not just like spewing out messaging and staying true to the principles of the brand and your like brand book, as silly as that is, that marketing 101, I think is like the guiding light. If you don't have that North Star, it's going to make it really difficult because there is so much chaos. But the North Star will help you navigate forward instead of getting distracted by shiny objects.
Yep, I love that.
Yeah, let me add a thought to that. I also think that being customer obsessed is absolutely spot on there, but you got to also think about the maturity of your team and the maturity of your strategy. So often when we have to take an agile mindset, you have to think about, okay, where is my team in terms of developing a strategy and executing to it? And when the strategy is clear and you have alignment, you focus on efficiency. But that was the state we were in last year, in all honesty. This year, we're in a major state of evolution of our business, which really means we have to over-communicate, you have to repeat, you have to find opportunities to bring the team together, clarify the strategy, and find disconnects. We were doing a speed dating exercise in 45 minutes between our team last week, where we were saying, let's go around the table and say, what's the most important thing you got? And where do you need help from the other executive member?
Okay,
And
so not actual, there were no actual dates.
There were no actual
okay.
dates. But the outcome was, the benefit was we found so many disconnects in at least 2 or 3 pockets. So I think, yeah, being customer obsessed, looking at the maturity of your strategy, and where the gaps might be in your execution is also another perspective I'd love to think we should add.
Yeah, and I think, Sarah, what you were saying really got me thinking about there's an obsession in our industry. And again, Butler Till's a media agency, so we're about paid media placement primarily. We do other things too, but there's an obsession in our space with scale. And so there's a lot more focus on how can we scale something. Like the number of times that I've heard and used that word in conversations with partners this week is incredible. Like we're far more interested sometimes in achieving scale than we are in achieving an actual connection with a consumer. So if you think about all of the times that you see advertising that's irrelevant to you, I think what we're doing is adding to the chaos in a non-productive way. And irrelevant, untargeted, unaccountable advertising actually has a really significant harmful byproduct, which is it continues to erode receptivity to marketing messages, that's something that I think we should all hold hands and stop doing.
It's our responsibility as marketers to stop talking at our customers and to start talking with them and to create a cohesive feedback loop. Because what's happening, right, with Gen Z is they're like, up, that's an ad, up, that's an ad, and they're going to be holding those dollars. They're going to be the people driving the economy. And so if we burn them out early because we're talking at them instead of having a conversation, wow, what are we going to do? What are we going to do as brands? What are we going to do as agencies? Like, how are we going to scale? Oh, we're not going to be able to, because they're going to make their own stuff. There's such a resurgence and such a kind of a look back in how Gen Z and the kids want to like take back control of their lives, of how they spend their time, of how they spend their money. And so I could not agree with you more, Scott. I could not agree with you more.
And just one more quick thing on that. I think we're seeing that already. And there's been a real challenge as all of these streaming services have now introduced ad-supported products. And so many of them, when I was dealing with them, I won't name any, but I think we all know who they are. And the way that they started those ad products was very much like, okay, it's a national buy only, there's no targeting, the CPM is $70. Like, I think we've got to get out of these legacy modes of activation and reaching consumers if we're going to build a future where we can connect. And we're so obsessed with that per unit cost, we don't care if what we bought is worth a damn. So
it's all wrong. We have to be driving surplus value to our customers, or they're not going to bring and drive value to us.
I got a point there. Sorry, Ted. We decided we'll not let you talk.
We're now having a fireside chat.
We're not accepting it.
Welcome to our living room. We're glad you're here.
I think there's been so much emphasis on what channels you use to communicate and how you communicate. And as marketers, we have to step back and say, what's the story? What's the idea? Go back to the what before you go to the how. There's been so much emphasis on how, given channel proliferation. And as marketers, I think the challenge upon us is, let's step back, go back, do deep thinking, reflect on who you are, and what's the idea or story or that you have, and then focus less on all the channels and the modes of communication and the how. Go back to the what, go back to the core.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Vibhor, on the strategy, a lot of that is just bad strategy and laziness, frankly. I mean, if I could tell you the number of times that I have 3 teenage boys that we saw the Charles Barkley Chuck GPT, the same ad during the NBA playoffs, it's just, it's unbelievable to me the amount of money that they're spending to not have a series of meaningful creative that is telling a story over a period of time, but just hammering the same message. And after a while, it's just like this oppressive onslaught of something. It's just like, it's almost like a form of torture to a teenage boy to see an ad like that. Okay, sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, you have all the tools in the tool set to be able to do it. Is it just laziness, or what's hindering from marrying like the right message to the right consumer, the right people amidst the right channel? I mean, you reach consumers largely for your consumer marketing. Vibhor, you think largely in terms of more B2B marketing in general. Is there a difference in how you actually try to reach a B2B target in a sense, or consumers differently?
We have to listen. It's a core principle. You've got 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Exactly.
My mom always said that.
Yep.
You know, and as marketers, we have to do that too. And you know, I have the pleasure of marketing to retailers as well as to consumers. So we have to balance that, right? And one of the ways that we do that is by knowing that the businesses that we're marketing to, the retailers that we're marketing to, are also just people. And if we're just like creating people first messaging, like that helps, right? It's like, how do you stop the chaos in your own life? Ask yourself that. You can probably also stop it in your company. You can also probably stop it in your industry by following those same core principles. And so we can't let like the fact get lost that authenticity over hype is so important, right? Like just because something hits, just because there's like, you know, something that hits on TikTok for 5 seconds, it doesn't mean as a brand or as a company, you have to jump on it. Like maybe it's not authentic with your brand. Like stay away, like don't get distracted, like stay the course, know your principles, and then like leave room to play, of course, right? Like when you're balancing your budget, leave room. On the tactical side, like allocate and plan, and then leave room for your agile team to react to things, but make sure it's authentic to the customer you're trying to reach and that you're bringing value to them.
And for us in NextRoll, we work with consumers or businesses that market to consumers and businesses that market to businesses. So B2B and B2B2C. So whether you're buying your next fitness gear, or whether you are a marketer and you want to buy a marketing analytics tool, we have both of those motions in our business. But I want to go back to what you just mentioned, which is it's all about strategy first. Because if you take a channel-first approach, then everything will look the same. So we have to think about the strategy that we want to adopt to engage our customers and the strategy they adopt to engage their customers or consumers. So yeah, the channel mix is just a reflection of the strategy. So I think that's where the biggest difference is.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, and we deal with all different verticals and types of clients. So we work in pharma a lot. So of course that is both D2C and the healthcare professional side, which are very different audiences that require a very different approach. You know, but I think, you know, frankly, the messaging and the approach in a lot of those spaces is going to and needs to evolve quickly. I mean, if anyone out here seen an irrelevant pharma ad that has nothing to do with them recently, I think that's an area where we're going to see continued innovation and targeting, because I know pharma is kind of I guess it wouldn't be an F, but a PH word in some areas, but we do need health treatments to be developed. We need to fund them. There needs to be commercial opportunities. But I just think there's so many better ways to reach patients in this case than the way that we've been doing it so far. So I'm actually very optimistic that that's going to change for the better.
Scott, I'm going to come right back to you because you already dropped the AI bomb on us. How do you think about chasing new things, emerging technologies? How do you not get distracted from things like, CTV or new platforms or AI?
Yeah, we have this discussion all the time, and I love the way that Vibhor just put this, because it has to start with the strategy. Is this on strategy? And just because, it's in ad age over and over again doesn't mean that it's on strategy. Anybody here remember 3 years ago when the talk was everyone appointing a chief metaverse officer, and we had Meta Beach that was all about the metaverse and Web3, and that's not something that we really went into in our business because we looked at it and said, sure, there may be application for things like blockchain down the road. There might be, paid inclusion opportunities in the metaverse, but really this is not something that's on strategy. So I think that's the most important thing. Like we're tracking trends all over the place. That's a big part of my role and my team's role. But the first thing that we ask ourselves anytime we see this is like, how would we do this in a way that is in line with and is accretive to the strategy that we're all pursuing together? I think that's really the important question to ask.
The only thing I'll add to that is I look for trends that are secular to really separate the hype versus where somebody should lean in on. And when it comes to secular trends, you're really looking at massive technology shifts. You're looking at changes in demographics. You're looking at, change in consumer habits. I think if you start to look for those patterns that cut across demographics, consumer choices and behavior, massive tech shifts, you will start to see this separation of what is a hype versus something that is really something that you have to focus on as a marketer.
You have to be like the Matrix. You have to be able to sort of step back, slow everything down, and kind of
Right.
read it all.
Be very flexible.
Yep.
I like to quickly research weekly, and this might be something that would be might help you optimize trying to sift through the weeds, which is to just ask ChatGPT, what are the 10 newest AI apps that will help me do XYZ, whatever it is. Like, so for me, it's like, what are the top 10 AI apps that have come out to help me optimize retail? And this helps me kind of stay on top of it. And then I can decide like what's right for me or what's not. And if it's a shiny object or if it speaks to my North Star, just as I found it to be very helpful.
When everything is in flux, when all these behavioral patterns, platforms, regulation, maybe both of you, key component of what's always in flux. How do you think about that, and how do you actually approach with confidence, like the opportunity to step into these things, but be able to manage everything you need to do?
I think sometimes you just have to make a decision and make it right.
Yep.
just feel like you just have to go. Just make that decision and make it right. Because sometimes you can't have the confidence. Sometimes you have to be able to be agile and you have to move fast enough. And so you have to just do it. Not to quote Nike, but ball in the footwear universe.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's actually worked out pretty well, right? Like maybe you're failing fast, but at least you're moving. You can't get stuck in like the stagnation of old data or like let perfection be the enemy of progress.
I used to actually hate that. I used to think that you should strive for perfection, that we should be better. But in reality, I think you learn again and again.
Not as a marketer, not when it's moving this fast, not when there's so many new technologies and so many tools. If you spend too much time researching any one thing, you're gonna miss stuff, which is why I ask like ChatGPT, I'm like, what are the things I should be aware of?
Yeah, I think, again, hopelessly biased here, but I think that's really a great argument to work with an agency that's progressive and is looking for those things for you. One of the primary roles that we play for our clients as an agency is to be looking out 3 to 5 years to say like what's coming, so we're ready for it. So we have scenarios that are planned. We have tools that are not. One of the things that we do, Ted, as you well know, is we've created an innovation fund for our clients that we ask our partners to participate in and help to fund based on how our clients are spending their dollars. And then we're constantly using those funds to test the next thing. It's something that's not tried and true. We don't know if it's going to be a meaningful thing yet, but that's the whole point. And that's really the one criteria that we use for that effort, is to say, is what we're taking these funds to do something that is really going to pay off more in 3 years and 5 years? And it's I think, necessary to have a third party looking after that stuff for you if you're going to be successful.
Great. Okay. We only have about a minute here, so this might be a bit of a speed round, but I do want to leave everybody out there in the audience with, one piece of advice you might give a marketer to how they can have confidence when they think about chaos that's out there. Any quick snippets?
Always follow your North Star. Don't get distracted by the shiny objects. Just don't. Like, know your values and consistently repeat them to your team. And if they have to change and iterate, like, know why. Know why.
And I think take the time to do strategy. I think a lot of companies, a lot of brands, a lot of clients don't value strategy enough, and they don't take the time to set their strategy. So it's really impossible to know if you're on strategy if you haven't really taken the time to articulate it.
The only thing I'll say is attention is prime. So if you really want attention, go back and put some attention on your idea. Put the creative block on your calendar. Spend some time solo. And I would say a bunch of marketing leaders here, that's one thing I struggle with and I try to manage. So I would say that's critical to find your message, find your idea.
As you guys indicated before when we were speaking, don't buy the Wi-Fi on the airline. Have that time alone for some headspace.
It's a great
Think
tip.
about how you can move. Great. Well, I think that's about it for time. We appreciate everybody joining us, and I
Thank
still
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
your perspective.
Cheers. Thank you.